Welcome to a review of Literary Gaming by Dr. Astrid Ensslin. Some of you may be old enough to remember Zork, a text adventure game from the late 1970s, where you wrote in simple commands to control characters and navigate your way through the story. It's one of the earliest examples of what is known as interactive fiction, or IF for short. The big question is Zork a story, or is it a game? If you guessed both, you've earned a gold star. From the point of view of analysis, a text that is both literature and a game presents a problem. The two academic groups that typically study these hybrid texts are literary scholars and ludologists, or game scholars. The problem, then, is the analysis of digital fiction is complicated by the lack of common methods and practices between the two invested research communities. To look at digital fiction from a literary perspective excludes vital ludological considerations, and, similarly, to study them merely as games may be at the expense of literary value. In literary gaming, Dr. Ensslin seeks to reconcile the two camps with a hybrid and systematic methodology that combines the analytical tools of the literary scholar with those of the ludologist. Back in the days of Zork, this would have been an extremely niche field. But today, the pervasive use of computers and digital technology have given rise to an ever-growing body of digital fiction that combines literary with ludic elements. Literary gaming is geared towards academics that are interested in the intersections of games and literature, but it is entirely accessible to the non-expert. Ensslin transmits her ideas clearly and knows her subject matter well. The book is logically organized, beginning with an overview of ludic books and literary games, a brief review of the theoretical underpinnings of play and games, and a look at the relationship between ludology and literary criticism. The heart of the book, however, is devoted to explaining her analytical approach and then applying it to a series of digital texts. Ensslin's framework is twofold. First, she presents the basis of her methodology, the Functional Ludostylistic Toolkit, a system that addresses a text from four key perspectives: ludology, or its game elements; ludonarratology, or its story elements; ludosemiotics, or how it communicates its game and story; and mediality, the material components of the text. The system is flexible in that each component can be applied in variable proportions. Secondly, she created the literary ludic, or LL spectrum, by which to organize hybrid works of digital fiction. Literary texts that produce what is called deep attention are on the left side of the continuum, while the gamier texts that invite hyper-attention are on the right. The schema is useful to classify works of digital fiction and understand how they relate to each other. What I found most compelling was the application of her system to a diverse cross-section of digital fiction. Personally, I've always enjoyed reading a scholarly analysis of a literary work, and Dr. Ensslin devotes most of the second half of her book to examining a variety of ludo-literary creations. She begins with distinctively literary works that foreground language and gradually progresses to the ludic end of the spectrum. I not only learned a new way to think about games as texts, but was also exposed to a variety of digital fictions that I am now curious to read and play.